unturned. And clients who just wanted a beige, standard, easy kind of ride didn't go there because they knew that they would be challenged. And sometimes it might be awkward and it might be difficult and all of those things. So they didn't go, which was great because they wouldn't have fit our culture, because we were taught that we had to challenge our clients. Whereas clients who were up for the ride and really wanted something that was going to, break the norm, they were desperate to come there because they knew what it would be all about. And I think, St. Luke's did the same. And I think that, all the 400 top companies, which is what disruptive leadership is based on, talk about is nailing what it is that you do that's different is the key to syncing internally how people behave with externally the experience that you give your clients, which then means that you have the best clients. You have clients who want to stay with you. You have clients who talk about you in, amazing terms because they know what they're getting from you and they know that they can't get it elsewhere. So, that's really interesting. I just was asked as well to talk a little bit about client service and the different, not necessarily different roles between a client service, business development managers and general managers, but I want to talk a little bit about the role overall, because during my time I've seen on many occasions in many organisations the role of account service, or the suits, which I find incredibly insulting, to be demised and denigrated, and was often called bag carriers, or the people who write the notes at the end of the meetings, and it's just outrageous, because when you have and you are an amazing strategic business creative mind, the role that you play is significant to any organisation. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's the difference between life and death of an agency. So, without that role within an organisation, what you tend to get is people who are focused on just what I've said, the output. So it's a bit like having a factory that's just really concerned with making the best biscuits, and all that's absolutely great, but there are so many more things to consider. So, as account handlers and as general managers, we need to think about, what it is that we're there to provide. What clients do we want to work with? Because let's face it, we want to work with the clients that are going to really suit us and we're going to be able to do great work on. We want clients that support and lift us up. We don't want clients who detract and bitch and moan, because they are a pain in the arse and you do not want them. Have them go to your competitors. So how, account managers were all about creating the internal environment, actually doing the marketing for your agency, being amazing relationship people, so creating relationships with clients that are beyond anything else, so that we create something that's magical between the two of us. We're also about motivating and inspiring people to go beyond what they think is possible. We need to be really sound strategically. We need to be marketeers. We need to be business heads. We need to be really good at giving creative feedback in a way that's graceful, and the way that actually it gets the best out of people as opposed to shuts people down. All of these roles are important and integral to an amazing account service person. And the reason I think that the role has been denigrated over the last 20 years is because it's actually not taught. We're not taught how to do it. We aren't given the benchmarks of what amazing looks like. We aren't told what each facet of our role is that we need to fulfill. And so what happens is, as human beings, and this, I fell into this trap absolutely, is we do what we're good at because we all have natural energy and natural tendencies to do certain things. So if you're an amazing relationship person like I was, you'll create great client relationships, and you'll be able to grow business organically. You'll probably be good at pitching because you'll be able to create those relationships in a pitch process. But you might not be great at setting up the environment internally, or you might not be great at the strategic piece. And that's fine, but the point is we need to know what all the pieces of the pie are, and which ones we are going to fulfill, which ones we're going to work on maybe, and which ones maybe need to be fulfilled by somebody else. But the tragedy is, because we don't get taught it, we leave elements of the pie missing in our agencies, which means they just don't get filled. And that's when things start to get tricky from an agency and a studio management perspective, because there are great big blind spots and gaping holes in the business and the way that it's run that just don't get filled. And that's when studios run into white water often. So it's knowing what the blueprint is and how we're going to fill that in. So the framework that I work with all of my clients is called the critical alignment model. And really it's about running through in your studio which bits you've nailed and which bits you've got and which bits are working and which bits maybe have been a blind spot for you and the people in the organisation. So the first tier is environment. So it's setting up the environment and the culture for success. So it's things like your vision, your purpose, your values, the standards, the benchmarks, the KPIs. You know, it's the why you're there. You know, what role does your studio play in the design landscape? And how are you communicating that? And how are you living that day to day? How do you do a meeting that gives people, clients, an experience of your why? Or is it just like everyone else's meeting? So that's a really important first part. The second piece is called structure, which is, so what systems do you have in place that actually help people to do the work in a way that ladders up to your why? And that's really important because that's the sort of, I suppose that's the pillars or the posts. It's the things that we need to focus on to be able to deliver your why. So that's the what. And then we move into the implementation phase. So what are people actually doing? You know, how are we teaching them to do the work in your agency's way, you know, on your brand? If we're not teaching them, how do we put a teaching method into place? How are we giving feedback on how well the people in your team are actually doing that work? And then finally, we look at people, because all too often people are judged and misjudged based on a subjective opinion because nobody really knows. So the fundamental principle of disruptive leadership for me is we as managers and leaders of organizations set the environment, structure and implementation scene so that people can really prosper and flourish and be motivated, inspired and come, you know, really wanting to go to work because they know what they're contributing. You know, they have feedback on what they're doing. They're having feedback on what they could be doing better. So then it's the people at the bottom because people really come first. But until we've done the first three tiers, we can't actually talk about the last tier. Anyway, I really trust that you've got some value out of that today from me. And I really hope that I see some of your studios really come alight and that, you know, the industry keeps flourishing here in Melbourne because it's a great place to be and we've got a lot of very talented people. And I think that there's so much opportunity out there for us as studio managers to really look up and out and think about what is it that we maybe have got blind spots around, and what else can we be doing to be creating an environment where, you know, amazing people want to come and work in our studios. It's brilliant. Have a great day. Thank you.